My name is Olivia. All week leading up to my 42nd birthday, my husband, Tomez, kept teasing me with half-joking, half-serious hints. You're not going to believe your eyes this year. Every time he said it, he kissed my forehead before heading out, leaving behind his familiar cologne and this odd, hopeful anticipation. After 18 years of marriage, I no longer expected grand gestures, but those words gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, he remembered. That I still meant something to him. I slept in that morning, a rare privilege in a house of 3 early risers, all ruled by school runs, morning meetings, and schedules that never waited. I opened my eyes and... silence. No music from Grace's room, my oldest daughter. No laughter from little Josh downstairs. No smell of coffee. No hint of waffles. Thomas's promised birthday breakfast special. I sat up and called out, "Thomas, where are the kids?" Only the echo of my voice bounced off the bedroom walls. His side of the bed was undisturbed, cold. I rushed down the hallway, flinging open doors. Beds made, closets empty. In the bathroom, 3 toothbrushes gone. The shoe rack by the door was missing. Thomas's favorite sneakers and the kids' running shoes. I stepped into the kitchen. The table was bare, but the fridge still had the strawberries and cream cheese I had ordered, ingredients for the birthday cake he said he'd make. I slumped into a chair, surrounded by photos on the walls. Us at Disney World, Grace's high school graduation, Josh grinning next to his prize-winning science project. Everyone smiling. And now, everyone gone. I grabbed my phone, no messages, no voicemails. I texted Thomas, "Where is everyone?" The message sent, but never said read. I messaged Grace, "Sweetheart, I just woke up, where is everyone?" A minute later the blue scene mark popped up, but no reply. I texted Josh, "Honey, please tell mommy what's going on." Nothing. That's when I opened Instagram. Grace posts everything, from breakfast to the neighbor's cat. The latest picture was posted 2 hours ago. They were standing by an infinity pool with a city skyline glowing in the background. The sea, the sky, and the light filled the frame. Thomas held a champagne glass, and the kids were smiling, with orange juice in hand. The caption was simple, yet it hit like ice. "Dad's spoiling us 'cause mom's too boring." #Miami Escape. I couldn't breathe. I read the caption once, then twice, then a third time. My chest tightened like a fist clenching my heart. They'd left me, no goodbye, no explanation, on my birthday. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I silenced my phone, turned on Do Not Disturb, and sat alone in a house that should have felt warmest on the day I turned 42. 2 hours later, WhatsApp started buzzing nonstop. Message after message from Tomas. Missed calls piling up. 13. Then 26. Then 54. I didn't read them, I just watched the numbers grow. Each buzz a crack in the image of the family I once believed was unbreakable. At 3 p.m. one message appeared in the preview bar. "Olivia, please pick up. I'm begging you." I let out a cold, bitter laugh. The begging began exactly 41 minutes after I sent a video, pulled from Thomas's office security camera, to the one person who needed to see it. That was the moment regret kicked in for him. And for me, for the first time in years, the truth came into sharp focus. I still don't know what pushed me into Thomas's office that afternoon. Maybe a gut feeling, maybe a stubborn refusal to believe I was abandoned for being too boring. The room was as tidy as always. Neat desk, locked cabinets, no sign he had flown to Miami with our kids. But I knew Thomas, knew that no matter how careful he was, he always left a clue. Small, but enough to unravel the truth. I opened the top drawer, just work files and business books. The second drawer was locked. I froze. Thomas never locked drawers at home. Unless he had something to hide. After a quick search, I reached under the drawer bottom and found the backup key he once hid. I unlocked it. The drawer clicked open. Inside, a thick file of financial documents, a few credit card statements, and, what made my heart stop, was a deep blue velvet box. And an old, unregistered phone. No Face ID, no passcode. Hands trembling, I opened the velvet box. A delicate diamond bracelet glimmered back at me with a small handwritten card. "To you, the one who makes me feel alive." No name, but I didn't need to guess. I powered up the phone. No password. Messages loaded instantly. The sender was B. I scrolled. The most recent text. Flying out at 7 a.m. Grace thinks it's a family trip. Josh is beyond excited. Just stay the quiet companion. Miami will be ours. I clenched the phone. Another message popped up above it. Same plan Thursday? Red tie and that woodsy cologne. I love that combo. Then an older one. Don't worry about Olivia. She's busy with bills, groceries, and dumb PTA meetings. I didn't feel hurt. I felt cold. Ice cold. I'd left behind my law career to build a home. I thought I was creating something lasting, but to him I was just a backdrop, forgettable, replaceable. Who was she? The next message answered that. A photo of 2 wine glasses, a woman's hand wearing a thin ring, and the caption, "Dinner with the only man who truly sees me." I zoomed in. Young. Blonde ponytail, sharp cheekbones, heavy eyeliner. Bailey Grant. The new assistant Thomas kept referring to as a rising talent in product development. I remembered her at last year's holiday party, showing up with Thomas because new hires should learn how to network. I felt uneasy then, but told myself I was being paranoid. I wasn't. I just trusted him too much. I looked at the documents in the drawer. 3 plane tickets to Miami booked 3 weeks ago, a receipt from a luxury beachside hotel, a bill from a French restaurant, every Thursday night, and one detail that froze me. A jewelry store receipt dated 5 months ago with a note. Gift wrap. No invoice enclosed. I laughed, not out of joy, but the kind of laugh that comes when you realize how long you've been played by someone you once loved most. I took pictures of every receipt. Then I remembered what Tomas once said. His company, Landford Tech, had just upgraded its security system after a data breach. I'd been invited to the launch event, where I met Andrew Carter, the head of IT, who once thanked me for helping his wife land a grad school scholarship. I dug through my own drawer and found Andrew's card. I messaged. "Hi Andrew, it's Olivia. I need your help. Absolute discretion." He replied a minute later. "Say the word." I sighed. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was an investigation. And I was a lawyer, back on the job, not out of passion, but in pursuit of truth. Andrew video called 10 minutes later. "What do you need?" he asked softly, seeing my face on screen. "I need access to the office cameras," I said, "specifically from last Thursday, and maybe a few other Thursdays." He looked surprised but didn't ask why. "The system keeps 90 days of footage. I can set you up with a temporary link. It'll expire in 24 hours. "Perfect, send it over ASAP." 15 minutes later, I had the link and a passcode. I drew the curtains, shut the office door, opened my laptop, plugged in headphones, took a deep breath, and hit play. The hallway outside the executive offices on the 6th floor appeared. Thomas's workspace. I set the time to 7:30 p.m., matching the timestamp from the burner phone texts. The timeline moved steadily. Employees left one by one. The screen was quiet for minutes. Then she appeared. Bailey, high ponytail, holding 2 wine glasses. She walked straight into Tomas's office without knocking. I switched to the office cam. What I saw made me pause the video, heart pounding. Thomas welcomed her with a hug. They sat shoulder to shoulder on the sofa, hands brushing over documents, and then kissed. Not shy, not guilty. The kiss of people used to doing this. I kept watching. As they adjusted their clothes, Bailey pulled out the same diamond bracelet. Thomas clasped it on her wrist, whispered something, and they kissed again. I pulled up another video, a different Thursday. Same thing, same 2 people, same office. I watched 2 more nights, same pattern. I logged timestamps, took screenshots, clipped videos. After 2 hours I had everything. Repeated intimate behavior, clear ethics violations, and misuse of company property for personal affairs. It didn't stop there. I reopened the credit card statements and cross-checked the dates. Theater tickets, hotel bills, dinners at upscale restaurants, all landed on Thursday nights. I created a folder titled Thomas_Landford_proof, compiling all the videos, receipts, screenshots, and burner phone messages. I numbered each file, added captions, and wrote brief notes explaining each violation. Close to midnight, under the warm yellow glow of my office lamp, my hands trembled as I typed the subject line of the email. Internal Ethics Violation Report, Thomas Whitaker. I knew Lanford Tech's ethics policy well. Thomas once bragged about it when Forbes named the company one of the most trustworthy in the medical device field. The policy clearly stated, any romantic relationship between a manager and a subordinate must be disclosed, or it will be considered a serious violation. It also included clauses about the misuse of company resources for personal purposes, and undisclosed gifts within workplace relationships. I entered the emails of the chairwoman of the board, Linda Reynolds, the head of HR, Patrick Evans, and the general counsel, Marcia Delgado. In the message body I kept it short, factual, emotionless. To the board of directors at Lanford Tech. My name is Olivia Whitaker. As the legal spouse of Mr. Thomas Whitaker, Director of Product Development at your company, I feel obligated to report serious violations concerning ethical conduct and the misuse of company resources. In the attached folder, I have provided video footage of inappropriate conduct in the workplace with a subordinate employee, Bailey Grant. Expense records from our shared account, linked to undisclosed personal activities. Messages from an unregistered personal device confirming the relationship and cover-up plans. I trust that you will handle this matter according to the ethical standards your company upholds. Sincerely, Olivia Whitaker. I scheduled the email to send at exactly 8:45 a.m. the next morning, the same time as their weekly board meeting. According to Thomas, those meetings started promptly, with all phones set to silent to ensure focus. The next morning at 8:44 I made myself a cup of coffee, sat at my desk and watched the clock. 8:45, the email was sent. I wasn't loud, I didn't seek revenge, I didn't make a scene. I just needed the right moment, and the right people. At 9:10 I received a notification from my email tracking software the email had been opened, 3 times, forwarded, twice. And at 9:36 a message popped up from Andrew. HR just requested access logs for Thomas, what's going on? When my phone screen lit up with an alert from the company's security system, I knew the storm had arrived. Thomas, the man who once took pride in his reputation and status at Lanford Tech, had officially lost access to the entire company network. According to the Autonesis, Thomas Whitaker's access has been locked immediately. Please contact IT for further information. Shortly after the news spread across the office, Thomas had been asked to leave the premises and was escorted out by security personnel. I was sitting at my small home office desk, soft daylight filtering through the curtains, when Andrew confirmed it via message. Thomas has been escorted out according to security. Seems like the consequences are catching up. I sat still, heart frozen, but deep inside a quiet sense of resolution began to form. Justice was catching up to the man who had torn our family apart. Right after, I called the bank to report an emergency on our joint account. I requested an immediate freeze on all activity to prevent any further misuse of funds tied to Thomas's actions. The phone line buzzed, and I listened to the banker's professional voice. Each number and transaction now felt like a living piece of evidence from the crumbling of a shared life. After finalizing the freeze, I returned to the house. In my mind, I saw Thomas, the man who once promised everything will be okay, now a stranger. I stepped into the hallway with the new set of keys I had installed the moment I realized the old life was gone. I walked to the front door and changed the lock, sealing the past shut. Every future doorbell ring would remind me that from now on, I'd protect this home differently. As my sanctuary, mine alone. Before it was all over, Thomas wouldn't let silence win. From about 11 a.m. until late afternoon, my phone vibrated nonstop. I counted 127 missed calls, texts, and emails from Thomas, filled with pleas, panic, and declarations like, I don't even understand what I did wrong. Every time the phone buzzed, I ignored it, because I knew no apology could fix what he had shattered. One of the last messages, at 3:00 p.m., read, Olivia, please answer, I'm really scared, I need you, give me a chance to explain. But I answered with silence. I didn't reply. I just let his pleas echo like the fading voice of a past that no longer had a place in my life. In those moments, my mind swirled with emotions, anger, heartbreak, and a strange kind of freedom. I remembered all those quiet nights, those long afternoons spent alone over coffee, thinking about the life I sacrificed so much for. And now, Thomas had single-handedly walked away from it all. That evening after the calls began to fade, I sat by the window, watching the city lights sparkle like shards of a broken past. I opened my laptop, logged into my personal email, and checked for a reply from Lanford Tech's board. Within minutes, a message from Linda Reynolds arrived. The contents were brief, but meaningful. MS Olivia, we have received your report and are conducting an internal investigation. Our company strongly upholds transparency and professional ethics. Rest assured, appropriate action will be taken. Sincerely, Linda Reynolds. That message was a small light in the dark, a reminder that justice doesn't bow to empty regret. I felt lighter, and I knew the turning point had come. I was no longer the abandoned, deceived wife. I was rising. I was preparing for a new chapter, one I would write on my own terms. In the quiet stillness of my home, everything felt different. I turned on the living room light, played soft music, and sat down at my desk. I double-checked all the evidence I'd gathered. Security footage, expense records, burner phone texts, all unshakable pieces of the truth. I backed them up onto a private drive, ensuring nothing could erase what I had uncovered. Then a thought struck me. It's time to do something not just for myself, but for everyone who's been hurt by this kind of system. I was ready to face Tomas, not as the man who betrayed me, but as a symbol of disloyalty and irresponsibility. I began planning the final confrontation, the moment where I'd face him directly and let the world know I would not be silenced. That night, as the clock struck 10, I stood in front of the mirror, staring into my own eyes. I asked myself if I could ever forget the pain, but I didn't need an answer. I knew. Everything had changed. I had closed a dark chapter in my life and was standing at the edge of a new one, where I would be the author, unshaken, never looking back. The phone rang again, this time from a close friend who had stood by me. The call was short, just a few simple words. Olivia, you're incredible. I'm here for you. Warmth spread through my chest, a reminder that no matter how fierce the storm, I still had a lifeline in people who truly cared. In the silence of the night, I stepped out onto the balcony, looking up at the star-filled sky. Each star felt like a small hope, faint but enough to light the way forward. I whispered to myself, I'm going to live better, I'm taking back control, and I'll never let anyone, even someone I once loved, take that from me again. And so, as Thomas's endless calls and desperate texts faded into a distant echo, I knew I had stepped into a new chapter. One where I no longer carried betrayal in silence. One where I would build my future, with clarity, confidence, and a strength forged in the fire of heartbreak. The wind slipped through the doorframe, carrying the scent of change. I smiled. This journey would be long. But now I was finally ready. And nothing could stop me. I knew they'd be home that evening. Through the location-sharing app Thomas once installed to keep the family safe, I watched the icon for all three, Thomas, Grace, and Josh, leave JFK Airport at 8:17 p.m., heading straight toward the quiet suburban house I once called home. I had everything ready. I printed every screenshot from the office footage showing Tomas and Bailey. The images needed no explanation. I placed them in a white folder, along with copies of receipts, extracted messages, and a full breakdown of questionable shared account spending. I set everything neatly on the coffee table. The porch light flicked on as the SUV pulled up. I didn't go to the door. I stood behind the frosted glass, watching Thomas's tense face. Grace and Josh stepped out silently, dragging their luggage behind them. A knock. I opened the door. Thomas looked at me, a mix of fear and forced kindness. Grace stood close by, her face weary, and Josh, only 11, peeked from behind her, confusion in his eyes. Olivia, Thomas began. I know you're upset, but please let us come in. I can explain everything. I didn't move. I simply said, the kids can come in, you can't. Grace looked up. Mom, what's going on? Dad said it was a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, it was a choice. I stepped back, holding the door open. Grace, Josh, come in, we need to talk. They hesitated. Thomas took a step forward, but I blocked him. You don't get to walk into this house anymore. This is my home, inherited from my grandmother and renovated with my own funds. You know that. Thomas clenched his jaw, eyes flicking to the kids. Your mom is blowing this way out of proportion. We just need to talk like adults. I cut him off. I handed Grace the folder. Take a look. You deserve to hear the truth from me, not from someone who's already rewritten it. Grace opened each sheet slowly. First the security footage stills. A sharp inhale slipped from her lips. Then the receipts, the messages. Her expression shifted from shock to confusion, then finally shattered. Dad, what is this? Grace asked, her voice trembling. Thomas stepped forward, trying to snatch the folder. It's not what it looks like. Those things, they're out of context. Your mother is twisting everything. No, it's exactly what you've always done to me, I replied calmly. While I stayed home preparing for my birthday, the three of you flew to Miami and posted on Instagram mocking me for being boring. Josh gently tugged at my sleeve. Mom, I didn't know anything. I thought it was just a surprise vacation. I bent down, softly touching his cheek. I know, Josh, none of this is your fault. I just want you to understand that sometimes adults make wrong choices, and you deserve to know the truth. Grace turned to Thomas, tears brimming in her eyes. You told us Mom doesn't like traveling, that she'd be happy to have some peace and quiet at home. He lied, I interjected. Your father didn't just lie. He manipulated both of you to cover up his own actions. Thomas snapped, frustrated. Olivia, you're trying to destroy me in front of my kids. Do you think that makes you stronger? I looked him straight in the eye. No, it makes me free. I stepped back and opened the door wide. You two can come in. Your rooms are just the way you left them. As for your father, his things are boxed up and waiting in the garage. Thomas froze. Grace looked at him one last time, then stepped inside. Josh followed her, still clutching his little robot backpack. Just before the door closed, Thomas whispered hoarsely, Olivia, you're tearing this family apart. I looked at him, completely unmoved. You did that a long time ago. I was just the last to realize it. The door shut. Outside, the night wind rustled through the trees. Inside, I wrapped my arms tightly around my kids, and for the first time in years, this house felt like a place of truth, of love, and of new beginnings. After that night, Thomas vanished from our daily lives. No drama, no fight, just a trail of missed calls and weak, fragmented texts. But the impact of what he'd done echoed loudly, especially in the financial world, where reputation and ethics often matter more than results. 3 days later, I received an email from Linda Reynolds, chairwoman of Lanford Tech's board. She confirmed that Thomas had been terminated, and all bonus stock benefits were suspended pending a full investigation. Around the same time, a few of his old industry contacts, people who once invited us to networking galas, also went silent. Thomas called me for the first time since everything unfolded. His voice had lost its usual confidence. I didn't answer. But I did hear the voicemail he left. 3 firms turned down my advisory offer. Did you tell someone? I just shook my head. I didn't have to say a word. The truth spread on its own. Bailey Grant, the blonde assistant, resigned right after Thomas was fired. According to Andrew, HR arranged a quiet exit agreement. I could guess the terms. A small settlement in exchange for staying silent online. Bailey disappeared from LinkedIn days later. As for me, I met with Stephanie, my best friend, and an attorney, at her downtown office. You've got everything, Stephanie said, flipping through the documents. And more importantly, that prenup Thomas signed? It clearly states infidelity means forfeiting asset rights. I nodded. We added that clause just in case. Never thought it would be my lifeline. This house, your grandmother's trust fund, your personal investments, all yours, Stephanie confirmed. I signed the divorce papers without hesitation. In the days that followed, Grace became unusually quiet. She'd often look at me like she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Josh clung to me, from bedtime to homework, always needing reassurance that I wasn't going to leave the way his father did. One night, while I was wiping down the kitchen counters, Grace walked in holding an old photo album. Mom, do you remember this? She asked, flipping to a picture from our Lake George trip when she was 7. I smiled. I remember. You refused to go swimming because you thought the fish would bite your toes. Grace giggled, then her voice softened. I'm sorry, about that Instagram caption on your birthday. I really thought Dad was telling the truth, that you'd be happy being alone. I placed my hand gently over hers. It's okay, sweetheart. We were all misled. What matters is you're seeing things clearly now. That moment became the first of many small repairs. We started new traditions. No more rushing through Sunday mornings for Thomas's golf outings. Now we had Sunday pancake breakfasts with everyone choosing their own toppings. No more silent dinners interrupted by his buzzing phone. Now we had no device dinners filled with conversation and laughter. Josh created a fun jar. Each week we draw a card with something to do together, baking cookies, painting, a picnic, or just a movie night with old cartoons. I also returned to my old passions. I pulled out my watercolor set untouched for nearly a decade. My first paintings were far from perfect, but when Grace looked over and said, "It looks like you when you watch us sleep," I knew I had found a lost piece of myself. One night, as we played Scrabble in the living room, Josh looked up at me, hesitant. "Mom, are we gonna be okay?" I looked at both of them and nodded. "I won't promise it'll always be easy, but I promise I'll always be here. And the three of us, we're rebuilding this together with love and truth." Josh smiled, Grace nodded, and in that moment I understood. Family isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to stay for each other. The storm had passed, and from the wreckage we began to rebuild what truly mattered. This time, no one would be left behind. My healing didn't begin with grand gestures. It started with small steps. The first week after the divorce was finalized, I went to see Dr. Monroe, a therapist a college friend had once recommended. Her office sat in a quiet part of town, filled with cream-colored armchairs, warm light, and a hint of lavender in the air. The first session I just sat there, no tears, no words, just silence. Dr. Monroe didn't push. She simply said, "When you're ready, Olivia, no one will be able to stop you." By the third session I began to speak about the years I gave up my career to be the perfect wife, about feeling invisible, about the moment I saw my husband kissing another woman, in the very office he once bragged about being respected in. I spoke of lonely nights after the kids were asleep, wondering, can I really start over at 42, and not drown in fear? Dr. Monroe didn't give me an answer. She just smiled and placed a sketch pad and some crayons in front of me. "Try doing something you used to love." I came home, dug out my watercolors. Grace watched quietly as I mixed colors. A few minutes later, she pulled up a chair beside me and pointed. "You're messing up the proportions, let me help." Since then, I've dedicated one evening a week to painting. Not for display, but to breathe. To just be me. Not a mom, not an ex-wife, just Olivia. I slowly reconnected with old friends, especially a group of fellow law school grads. One of them, Rachel, invited me to a panel at her law firm. After the talk, a man approached me. Ethan Clark, head of HR at Whitman Consulting Group. "I've heard your name, Olivia. Back in Boston you won a pretty high-profile corporate ethics case." I nodded, surprised anyone remembered. "We're expanding our compliance division, and I think you bring a perspective a lot of firms are missing." I asked for time to consider. After talking with Grace, I said yes. Not to prove anything, but because I finally felt ready to work again as a woman of value, not someone hiding behind someone else's success. The new job didn't just restore my confidence, it reignited my passion, using the law to protect fairness and give a voice to the overlooked. A year passed since I woke up to that empty house and a birthday forgotten in the cruelest way. My 43rd birthday arrived on a soft April morning. I woke to the smell of baked goods and hot coffee, jazz music floating through the air. Grace and Josh had woken early, decorating the living room with pastel streamers and a handmade sign. "Happy birthday to the strongest mom." My parents came by with a pot of stew, my childhood favorite. Rachel and a few close friends brought cake and sunflowers, and Ethan, the one who gave me a second chance, stopped by with a book I'd mentioned months ago in passing. That evening, after everyone left, I stepped into the backyard where I'd planted a small flower bed during the early days of the divorce. A reminder that anything can bloom again if you're patient enough. I looked at the sky, exhaled deeply, and thought about what Tomas once said. "This year your gift will blow your mind." Turns out he was right. It just didn't come from him. It came from truth, from freedom, from me. and it was the most beautiful gift I'd ever received. Olivia's story is proof that sometimes loss marks the beginning of real life. From a woman betrayed and dismissed, she rose, defending her children, her dignity, and her truth. Olivia didn't just reclaim control, she rediscovered her worth, her career, and genuine connections. In a world full of chaos, strength isn't the absence of pain, it's the courage to rise beyond it. What do you think about Olivia's journey? Did she make the right choice by starting over on her own? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more inspiring stories about family, strength, and resilience.